Hello, everyone, and welcome to Film Talk, the Sofia International Film Festival special broadcast, bringing you to the homes of film directors, actors, producers, since they can get to yours, and it's most probably illegal. So that's one of the safest ways to actually get you into the world of all those people that have submitted their wonderful pictures for the Sofia International Film Festival. As you know, this year the festival is happening both online, open air, and at Cinema House. So yeah, we are expanding towards the unknown, but hell, isn't it exciting? I have Tomas VENGRIS here with me today, director of the film Motherland. Hi, Thomas, how are you?
Hello, hello. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Awesome. Where are you now? I see a creative kind of setting around you. I see a camera, I see a wardrobe. Where do we find you?
Yeah, I am in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, surrounded by forests and lakes and beaches. Couldn't be a better place to be quarantined as the things slowly start to open up here in the U.S.
So how do you feel about things opening up?
It's a little strange. I think that there's a lot of things happening in the U.S. that are a little crazy. In certain places, but here everything seems to be under control. I was supposed to be back in Lithuania by now, and they've opened up there, and there's no problems there. Here, I think everybody's a little more cautious about things, or at least the thinking people are a little more cautious about things. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, that's kind of far away from us right now, although it's a beautiful place. But your film is called Motherland. So what is Motherland to you, and what is the film about?
So Motherland is set in 1992. It's just after the fall of the Soviet Union, and it's about a Lithuanian woman who escaped from the Soviet Union to the US, and she comes back 20 years later with her American-born son to reclaim her family land that was taken by the Soviets. The film is told from her son's perspective, from this 13-year-old boy's perspective, and not going to give too much away, but the trip is more than he expected. It's not just a little vacation to the motherland. And of course, when you ask what is a motherland to me, the film is clearly a very personal film, as you can probably tell from my accent. I have spent a lot of time in the U.S. and a lot of time in Lithuania, and I grew up between the two worlds, and I think that's one of those questions that has been formative for me. These questions of identity and who we are and how we want to identify ourselves. But of course, the film isn't purely autobiographical. It goes into some more exciting turns.
Well, it is definitely an important subject, and here in all of the ex-Eastern Bloc countries, we all have witnessed these stories of return. And how do you deal with the idea of returning to a motherland that actually doesn't exist anymore?
Well, I think that's one of the most important things, or one of the things that drove me with this film. I think that so many people have so much nostalgia, and of course, as you mentioned, many people in the Eastern Bloc can relate. But I think it's really a universal thing that so many people idealize their past and their youth. And this nostalgia, and people go searching for their identity in their past. And I think that there's a Lithuanian saying, you can't step in the same river twice. And I think it's this question of what is your home becomes very important. And to me, I think that your home is something inside. It's who you are inside. Maybe it's your family. It's people that are close to you. But I think it's very dangerous to completely associate your home and your identity with a geographical location. I think there's more to it than that, let's say.
Do you believe that a real home can change, that it can be replaced by another sense of home? Since right now in the US, there are so many processes of dismantling policies for people that have found their home in the US, and now it has been denied. How do you feel in that situation?
I mean, of course, I think that sort of these xenophobic policies are not. I think they're very misguided. I think that it's political gamesmanship, if we want to talk about the specific American policies. You know, I think it's a complicated question. I think that it's something that goes well past what legislators, what lawmakers can kind of try to oversimplify. I think that in a sense there is a deep emotional tie that we have to where we came from. I think that's important, but of course I think I'm a perfect example of the fact that you can create a new home somewhere else, and the most important things are not the name of the country on your passport or the flag that's flown where you're living, but where you can build and create a life. In no way does that mean that your nationality and your history doesn't matter. I think that of course these things are important, of course culture and traditions, and again, that's as someone who was raised between these two worlds, I see the importance of both, but I think that again, I think that true home is something that you create for yourself.
Have you created a home for yourself, Thomas?
That's a good question. No, we'll say I'm still in search of a home. I currently live mainly between two cities, but with other little stops in between. So I'm in the process of creating a home. I'm wandering.
Well, this is Tomas ВЕНГРИС living in a tale of two cities.
There you go.
How do you adapt when you go back to Lithuania? Do you feel that this country is still your motherland? Do you believe that it is actually important to have a motherland? Because many of the things that we say about having a home being where your heart is, and so on and so on, yeah, those things matter. But in the same time, is it really important to have a motherland? Is it possible to live without a motherland?
That's a good question. I mean, for the first part of the question, how I feel when I mean, to me, going back to Vilnius is going back to one of my homes. I, you know, have friends waiting for me, people I've been friends with since I was a child. There's a sense of everything is familiar, and there's so much that I miss about it when I'm gone for extended period of time, from the simple things to, you know, food and sights and nature to just human interactions. I know, you know, every time I'm in the US for a longer amount of time, I feel more and more how being raised by Lithuanian parents, partially, you know, going back and forth and being in Lithuania sometimes, that I really miss the sort of harsh openness and truth and sort of frankness of Lithuanian communication, as opposed to the American smiles and politeness and all of that. I think there's these subtle things that are more a feeling. Do you have to have a homeland? I don't know if that. I think people have an urge for creating an identity, and I think that can happen in many ways. Artists can form their identity around their art. You know, people can form their identity around their families. There's many different ways to do it, but I think having an identity, I think people have an intrinsic need to form some sort of an identity, and sometimes that need can be warped and turned into things that become very unpleasant and dangerous. But I don't think that there's anything wrong with having that sense of belonging. But I don't think it needs to be tied to a specific flag or a specific nation or anything like that.
Just like the film festival doesn't need to be tied to specific screening locations. This year, the Sofia Film Festival went online for the first time in its history. I'm sure that some of it will remain this way. Surely it is so exciting to meet you and all of the other directors from the different sections. Thank you for taking the time to answer those questions and to actually inspire even more curiosity towards Motherland. Motherland is at Cinema House and online on the Sofia International Film Festival online platform. Go check it out, regardless where you belong. Thank you, Thomas.
All right, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.